previously on Supa-Saturdays Draw Along.
That's why I love to draw, and I wanna create Supa-Saturdays, 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 draw along.
Please hold your applause, please. It was nothing really. Really, it wasn't nothing at all. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to another episode of Supa-Saturdays. It's the first one in 2026 because I had a terrible accident last week where there was a lot of flu in my house and a lot of alcohol and a lot of watching late night soccer. And I've got no, what was it they say? I haven't got an excuse, but I've got a reason. And if you're in America, if you're across the pond in the big landmass, it is 6 p.m. in the evening, but I'm coming to you from Singapore, and it's 7 a.m. here in the morning. And last week, you can still hear my voice still sounds a bit dodgy. Last week, I just couldn't wake up. There was too many things going on, and I missed my deadline, and it's so embarrassing. And maybe I shouldn't be telling you the truth, but I'm such a great guy that I just can't be dishonest. I'm a nice guy. I tell the truth most of the time. But I think we've been through a lot together, and I can confide in you, and you can forgive me for being a bit sick. I won't say drunk. I've never been drunk before. Maybe a bit hungover, and still recovering from the new year. So anyway, let's set the mood. Let's get some music going. And where we were in Supa-Saturdays, I must check. Sometimes I start the stream and I'm on mute. No, everything seems fine. I think I'm safe. If anyone sees any nonsense going on, you can't hear me, you can't see something. Look at that cheeky devil. Look at this already. Wow, Jerry, you're up early. Gothic Angel. I assume you're in a different country to me, so that means you're safe. What a cheeky devil. 2026, you're up early. As if I would ever oversleep or do anything so naughty. Okay, cheers. Bob says I'm good. Okay, good. So you can see where we were. You saw the recap. Now the recap, in truth, of Spy Master, as if you've been here before, how can I say, the cover of Iron Man number 34, where Spy Master was. You know what's that they say, through the eyes of a child? Well, Spy Master was getting the better of Iron Man on that cover. And it's a bittersweet memory. I remember feeling very, very perplexed seeing Iron Man going through what he was going through. But the way it was drawn, I think it was drawn by Sal Buscema, not John Buscema. But anyway, that image of Iron Man number 34. You're talking Bronze Age comics here, yeah? I'm not going to share my age. Though it's my birthday next week, and I'll be 2 + 3 score years. So those of you who know Old English, what a score is, there's 3 of them, then add 2. I'll be that next week, January the 14th. So I'm not expecting any presents from you. But now I've mentioned it, you've got no excuse. I need a new camera. I mean, look at this. Look at the state of this. My son, he bought me a camera for Christmas, and it's worse than the old one. It's very clear, but it's very dark. Anyway, I digress. Someone says, I'm in the UK. It wasn't a dig. It was shocked that people get up that time. All right, Gothic, you're forgiven. Yeah, it's 11 p.m. there. Yeah, originally I'm from the UK. I'm used to speaking to my brother around this time. probably just after a game of football when Manchester United have lost, and he supports Manchester United. What's this? I'm a few months younger than Pops. I'm used to being the oldest guy in the room, so that's some consolation. So anyway, enough talking, enough of these shenanigans. Oh, last thing. I hope you can understand what I'm saying, because I have a tendency of speaking too fast. It's a combination of things. One, I'm British. That's no excuse, but it's part of the problem. I'm British. My parents were from Barbados in the Caribbean, and a lot of people there do tend to speak too fast. I inherited that infection. Mix that with a bit of Singaporean English, and you've got me. So I'm making a conscious decision to try to speak slower. But when I get excited, especially when it comes to drawing, I might speed up. So if that happens, you know what to do. Drop me a line and say, Jerome, Jerry, whatever you want to call me, you please slow down. Anyway, fourth, what have we got going on here? Spy Master, right? So I'll tell you about how much I love this character, so I decided to just draw him a tribute. Now, as we did this, I made a late decision. It wasn't planned. I don't want to make out that I'm this really organized kind of presenter here. It wasn't planned, but I thought it would be nice if we stuck a background on him. So we came up with this. I'm going to switch him off. Let's see what we did. I lowered the camera. Looking at him, you can see that the camera is low with the eye line. So I decided to put the horizon line down here. Now, anyone out there struggling with perspective? Okay, this is called Supa-Saturdays Draw Along. So it is meant to be a tutorial. So if you're not so sure on perspective, we'll be touching on different aspects of it through the weeks. So this one is a 1-point perspective. So I put my horizon line down here, and I sketched in a rough background. I thought this would look quite nice. So then on that, I then inked. So we can switch off the pencils, and we came up with this background. So now, today we're going to color this background, get into a bit of ambient lighting and that kind of stuff. So here's our man. I'm going to switch him off. Now I'm working digitally, so I can do magical things like that. I'm using Clip Studio Paint. I still use Photoshop, the very famous Photoshop. But when it comes to comics and stuff like that, Clip Studio Paint isn't number one for no reason. It is really, really very good. Now you can see my layer palette over here on the right. Now I'll tell you what, look at the state of those layers. Now what I always teach my students is what I call layer etiquette. Look at this, look at the state of this. I showed you my vanishing point and my horizon line and a rough sketch. But do you notice anything wrong over here? Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, what's wrong? Yes, that's right. They're not in a folder. So I'm going to put my layers into a folder and call it BG for background. How about that for simplicity? So let me switch off by sketching. Right, so here we got our inks. So now we're going to go in for some base colors. So I'm going to make a layer. I'm going to call this base. Base, how low can you go? That statement makes no mistake, because there was a song back in the 1980s talking about bass, as in bass in music, B-A-S-S. God, I don't know what's wrong with me this morning. I'm talking a load of crap. Anyway, where was I? Base colors. Now, Spy Master's an evil man. He's in his lair. So I'm going to give him a metal surrounding with some red lighting. So the first thing I want to do is get a base color for the furthermost wall. That's the wall that's at the back. If you look here, can you see there's actually a corridor behind there? The walls do not meet the bottom where the floor is. Can you see that slightly in front? Yee, dodgy inking. Look at the state of that. You know, I keep mentioning, right, I must zoom in so you guys can really see what I'm doing. I was guilty of not zooming in, so I didn't even see my own dodgy inking. Look at these lines not connecting. This is really embarrassing, ladies and gentlemen. I'm always lecturing my students about, look at this debris. Oh, you really must zoom in. Lord have mercy. Lord have mercy. Look at the state of this. Ladies and gentlemen, don't tell anyone what you saw here today. Don't tell anyone what you saw here. Keep it a secret between us. But that Jerome Hinds was overshooting lines, not adjoining other lines. Damn! How can you do that to people? So let me just touch this in. Extend this. Extend this. Okay, so we've done a bit of work. Look at that! This is terrible! I'm going to blame you. Because I'm doing this live, I'm trying to get a certain amount of work done in 1.5 hours. Right, this stream is 1.5 hours long, so I'm with you for about another hour, 20 minutes or so. And I'm struggling to get things done in time. And all because of you, I'm not paying attention. Look at this. Look at the state of that. God damn. Okay, let me extend this. But you notice that I use the marquee tool to extend that. That's a good way of stretching a line sometimes, if you don't want to draw in manually. There. This is terrible. Look at what lines here I haven't done. And you know what? You know what's the worst thing? I used the mirror tool, didn't I? That means it's going to be just as bad on the other side. Jeez. Life is tough. Life is rough. But, as I always tell my students, the race is not for the swift, but for the strong. And it takes strength, ladies and gentlemen, to make such terrible mistakes and share them with an audience who is led to believe that I know what I'm doing. But all's well that ends well. How about that? I'm copying my daughter there. She's very cheeky. When she was very young, I was disciplining her, and she corrected me, and then said, "How about that?" And you know when you're so angry till you can't be angry? I started laughing. Anyway, that was many years back. She's a woman now, but she can't remember it. But oh, look at the state of this. Look at this. Okay, I think that's enough messing around. From a distance, and he stood in the way anyway. Anyway, I believe in a tidy piece of artwork. So now that we've tidied up our inking, we can actually start coloring. Right, I think there might be a few messages here. Let me just check. Don't worry, I am going to do some coloring today. I promise you, ladies and gentlemen. Gothic Angel. Man United are rubbish and running joke about being a gay bar. Yep, Man United are indeed a bit dodgy these days. Did I read that one already? Gothic says, "Call me Kerry." Sure, Kerry. Man United, yeah, they're a bit dodgy, but I support Fulham. So I can't really complain about Man United because we're not much better. But we're doing well at the moment. Anyway, you guys across the pond, you're not interested in soccer, so I changed the subject. What's this? You can play Twister on that floor. Well, you could. Argo Comics. Wait, is that Dan Sen in the house? Dan Sen from Thunderzone Comics. We got a Kickstarter. I'll be talking about that later on. Quentin White says, "What's up, y'all? Yeah, what's up, Quentin? Thank you for joining the party." Q is here, party time. Tonight is party time. Tonight is party time. Yes, absolutely. Say, "Hey, Argo." My goodness, why is there so many people here? I'm going to spend more time. Okay, I'll rush through these. Well, I'm not complaining. It's nice to have somebody in the house. You see that? I was starting to speak too fast then, right? I wish you had told me it was secret before you shouted it out window. Never mind, Gothic. I forgive you. I was a bit slow with the warning. Everybody's saying hello, 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 hello. What's this? Your choice of football team is shocking. Fulham, listen, there's a long story, right? I got a good reason for why I support Fulham. My brother tells me that when I was a kid, my favorite superhero was Captain Marvel, and he had yellow hair. And Fulham football team had a goalkeeper named David Miller, and his hairstyle was a bit similar to Captain Marvel, apparently. So that's why I like Fulham. Now that's the reason why, and it's good enough for me, so it should be good enough for you. So I like Fulham because the goalkeeper once looked like Captain Marvel of the Kree Empire. How about that for some reasoning? So fourth, enough of these shenanigans. Fourth with the coloring. As I said, I want him to be in a metallic kind of environment. So for metal, I always get a pastel-y, very pale blue, like this. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to cover the entire canvas with that blue. That's what I'm going to do. Now we have different planes. Remember I mentioned right at the back, there is a slight corridor behind there. The walls do not meet that wall. So the first thing I want to do is make sure the front of my image is pulled out from the back. So I'm going to do certain things at the back here, then come to the front. So I've got my base. Now there's some more inking that I need to add here. So I'm going to put blacks. A hazardous window frame. I want that to be black. The chevrons to be black, but I'm not going to make them exactly black. I'm going to make them a dark gray because I want them to stay in the back. Stay in the back, sister. There. How about that for some warning? Be careful of the doors. You never know what's coming through. We've got the blacks. Now in the base, just above the base, I'm going to put yellow because a hazardous area has yellow. Now look at the yellow that I'm choosing. It's going to be a bit pastellated because, you know, the further away a color is, the less saturated it can be. Now that's too bright. Now I always mention about the monitor you might be viewing this stream on because that does make a difference. I'm using a Cintiq, a Wacom Cintiq, which has a pretty true color, you could say. But when I look at it on my TV monitor, did I leave that up there? Did I put yay, man, and leave it on the screen? I got a habit of putting up comments and not taking them off the screen. Silly man. But look at that. I remember to even look. Remarkable. Quite remarkable, quite extraordinary. Now, back on the blacks, I'm going to put a harsh shadow underneath. I'm calling this a balcony. So I'm going to sample this gray again. And I'm going to make that an undercarriage. Good. I'm going to do the same here as well. I haven't even planned this background, you know. I'm making this up as I go along, but this is things that I've done through the years with backgrounds. Now, looking at my chevrons, I think they should all be that. I think I can make them that dark. I think it's all right. Just a little bit lighter. I'm going to select all of my blacks. Select, will ya? My computer's playing tricks on me. What was it my mum used to say? A bad workman always blames his tools. My father was a carpenter. I'm not sure if that was a subtle dig at my dad. But my dad was a very good carpenter. In those days, it was called a joiner. He used to work in construction, and he built an extension on our house. And later on, I did the same thing with my old house. I have no idea why I'm telling. How did I even get into the subject of my father being a joiner? Oh yeah, bad workman blames his tools. Yeah, I was blaming the software for something that I just did. Eee! The door's yellow. How did that happen? I was probably too busy talking about my parents. Get out of it. Right. So we've got some shadows going on. I want another shadow. I'm going to put another shadow in here. Like if there's a ledge up by the ceiling. So I'm going to get my paint bucket. I'm going to drop another piece of dark in there. You know, I've got to stop being so pedantic, you know. I just spotted a bit of inking. Most people probably wouldn't even see that. But I don't like dodgy inking. I'm a precise kind of guy. God, I do this. Right. So now we've got the base colors in on the back wall. Now, can we do anything different here? I'm going to, now, light, generally speaking, light normally comes from above. It's either a light on the ceiling or the sun. So very rarely will you get a light coming from below. Now, we can get into some of that a bit later. But the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to select all of this, these areas on the back wall. I'm going to go between. Remember I said I'm going to make this a balcony. Because that's actually a fencing up there, you could say. I'm going to go right up to the ceiling. And I'm going to, there's something called a gradient tool in Clip Studio. Now the reason, now that's a bit strange. Why can't I see the parameters of my gradient tool? Shock horror! There it is. There it be. I've got something funny going on here. My palettes are very disheveled. Hold on, ladies and gentlemen. Something's going on here. There's something going on. Why can't I see? I know. I've got one of my palettes missing. There's my tool property. No, you don't want to be streaming without your tool property. What kind of person does such a thing? No, hang on. You know, it's not me. It's not me. I've got years of experience with this software. My computer's playing tricks with me today. My palettes are not behaving in a civil manner. Now, hang on. Let me fix this, ladies and gentlemen. Okay, dock that. There's my tool property. Now, where's my subtool? Hang on. I'm going to get to the bottom of this. That's because I'm a clever guy. I'm going to get to the bottom of what's going on here. There's something funny going on. Now, there's my tool property. Look at the stresses you put me through. My palettes. You know, I'm gonna have to settle for a different arrangement today. For some reason, my interface has gone berserk. I'm supposed to join that to the bottom. Why can't I do that? God damn. Hang on. That looks a bit better. Is it better? Where's my toolbar up there? Hang on. See, I'm a bit autistic. If my tool property is not at the top, I feel very uncomfortable. Now that's definitely a bit better. Now my color wheel is gone. Where's my color wheel? Here's my color settings. You know, what doesn't kill you makes it stronger. I'm going to work in a different format today because my palettes are not behaving themselves. So where was I? I was talking about gradients, right? There's a gradient tool here, but I'm actually going to use the spray can. I'm going to duplicate my base layer. And I'm going to put this background color into my color picker again. Look at this. It's really behaving badly. It's not sampling colors properly. What's going on, man? Good Lord. Right, now I'm going to get my spray can. And I'm going to spray a light area of white towards the top of this back wall. I'm going to make the back wall slightly lighter at the top. Can you see that? But can you see that? Goodness gracious. Deselect. Yes, I'm quite happy with that. Now with the ceiling, I'm going to put, should I put some strange lighting in the ceiling? All right, let's try something here. I'm going to put some red lights in the ceiling, because that will make things a little bit more scary, I guess. I'm going to select this area. No, I'm going to just select that and that. And I'm going to put a red light in here. You see that I'm disorientated, ladies and gentlemen, because my palettes are not where they're supposed to be. Now there's my color wheel. Now what are you hiding over there? Hang on. Hang on, ladies and gentlemen. I promise you, I will get myself in order. Now he should be at the bottom. Now that looks more like it. This looks like my normal palette layout. God damn, ladies and gentlemen. Life is tough when your palette's not in the right place. Good. Now I can pick my colors much more conveniently. So I'm going to put a piece of red lighting in here. Now, I'm going to get into the glow a bit later on, but in these red lights, I'm going to put a little nucleus of gold. So they're kind of, they're going to be slightly glowing with an air of gold in them. So I've got my soft paintbrush. I'm going to come down the center. I don't want it too light. Too bright, sorry. I want it very subtle. I want that slight glow in the center of my light. Jah is my light and my salvation. There. I think that might be quite interesting. We get into the further lighting later on. Deselect. So these are just, we're going to pretend these are just metal panels next to that. And as we get to the Spy Master, he's coming into the light. So I'm going to magic wand the rest of the ceiling. Get white again. And put a very, very subtle amount of light coming into the fore of that back corridor. Deselect. Okay. Good. Now the thing is, here are the inks. For something to glow, you actually need a bit of color on top of the ink. So I'm going to put glow. Get my spray can. So this is above the inking, okay? I'm going to sample the edge of that light. My brush is how many pixels? 25 pixels. I'm going to make it a little bit smaller. I've gone to 20 pixels. I'm going to hold shift and just put, no, that's not big enough. Let's go to 30 pixels. And I'm going to put a frame around the light. And I just erase that little bit that overhangs here. I could be using my mirror tool here because this is going to be exactly the same on the other side. There, so we've got those lights glowing slightly now. Now, sometimes I put in bits of shadow I'm not going to say it make no sense, but it can almost come into design. I used to do graphic designing, and sometimes you can put in a shape of shadow that kind of, it's like an element of shading. So I'm going to come on top of all of these. I'm going to come to a layer on top of everything. I'm going to call it shadow. And under that balcony, I'm going to put in an irregular. Let me get closer. We don't want anything overshooting or not connecting like last time. I'm just getting the feeling to put in a shape in the background like this. I'm going to fill it with black and then play with the opacity. Should I make it 40%? Let's have a look. Let's have a look at 40. Deselect. Yeah. I kind of like the feel of that. And I'm going to make that shadow extend behind our balcony. So I'm going to click in here under that ledge. Remember we had like an imaginary ledge thing? Good, and that pushes our balcony forward. All right, I think that looks quite interesting. Now, how does that man stand up on top? Yes, and we're going to get into some more lighting on him later. Then, that whole background, that whole part of the background that we've done. I'm going to try something here. I call it ambient shade. Ambient shade. I'm going to, whoops, that whole back corridor, I've selected across it. I'm going to fill it with black. Then I'm going to start to knock back the whole thing. I'm making my ambient shade 30. No, you know what? I prefer 35. So the whole thing is now knocked further back. And the lighting, I will select the lighting. My ambient shade, I'm going to copy and paste. But I'm going to make my ambient shade on that part lighter. Sorry, let me do that again. I was going too fast. Sorry, this is meant to be a draw along. I can't be just racing off doing things and not telling you what I'm doing. Can't be doing that. Right, what I'm doing is I've selected the light panels. On the ambient shade, I'm going to cut that out and paste it back. But you can see here, I'm making that lighting, because light will cut too dark more. I'm cutting down the ambient shade here from 35%. I'm going to go down to 20. So now we come to the walls in the foreground. So again, you can see now they look lighter because they're closer to us and more in the light. So I'm actually going to have a bit of reverse psychology here. Reverse psychology. Of course, there's no psychology involved in nothing that I'm doing here. Let's call it reverse shading. Yee! Look at the ambient shading. Yeah. Doesn't mean. It doesn't mean. That's what you get for not zooming in. What a butcher. Hang on. Let me stretch that. I suppose I better check the other side, right? My Lord have days. Right, where was I? So when we come to the front of the image, let's look at the floor first. Sorry, let's look at the floor. And we've got a spy master coming towards us. So we want attention to be paid to him. So what I'm going to do is, I'm going to select the floor area. Now, it's probably easier, it's faster to use the polygonal tool here rather than the magic wand. So I'm going to select, I'm selecting the floor area, okay? There. There, I've selected the floor area. And what I'm going to do on top of this, I'm going to make another layer. I'm going to call it floor shade. I'm going to get a layer of black. Big brush. And I'm going to put a slight shadow on the floor. Make it a bit lighter. I'm not so keen on that shade. I want it a bit more blue. So let me sample this blue. Let me bring down my color picker down here. Yes, that's better. Because as you know, as colors come closer to us, they become more saturated. So I'm making the back of the corridor he's walking towards us in a little bit, the back of it a bit lighter, so a bit darker, and then the light a bit lighter as we come to the front. Let me sample this color again. I'm going to go a bit lighter. What's my brush density? See that? I normally have this palette here. I really don't like things out of order. Now, how my palettes got mixed up in the first place is anyone's guess. You get out of it. Hang on. My properties are playing tricks with me again. That's better. Yes. No, that's still wrong. I don't want that one down there. I want it up here. Ladies and gentlemen, you're witnessing an artist having a very hard time coming to grips with a disheveled interface. But I digress. I'm going to take my density down to 20 because I want a subtle, I want this light to be a little bit more subtle here. That's better. And did anyone notice something that I haven't done here? What was it I always shout from the rooftops every week? I'm working digitally. So if you're a regular viewer here, does anyone know what I'm always shouting? I'm gonna have a quick look into the comments to see if anyone knows their stuff. What haven't I said? Someone says reggae party, cheeky devil. Something I'm always explaining to people or shouting at people is this: save! And could you believe, ladies and gentlemen, I've done all this and I haven't saved yet. So here we go. Command S. Save! Jolly good. Hang on, what happened there? See, you know what I did? I went to press Command S for save. I pressed Command Z and I undid my shading. Oh, I'm in rare form this morning, I tell you. Terrible. There we are, Command X. Save. Now deselect. Okay, good. We've got a good foundation in for the floor. Now we come to the walls at the side. Oh no. When I just said walls, I don't know why, but that named Tim Walls, you know, the guy from who's in the politics, who's in the crosshairs at the moment. Suddenly I thought of Tim Walls, but I digress. I want another gradient on this wall, and I want my gradient coming from below. Like that. So I'm going to come down here, and I'm going to call it wall shade. Now I want a big brush for this. Look at the size of that brush. How many pixels is that? That's 2,000 pixels. I'm telling you, ladies and gentlemen, you will not be watching many live streams when a man can handle a 2000 pixel brush like me. Now, before I speak too soon, let's make sure I do this properly. I'm going to sample a shade from the floor about here. And I just want a bit of shadow on the lower wall. There. Can you even see what I'm doing? It's very subtle. Just the lower wall over this side on the left. I can make it a little bit more saturated. Let me take my picker over here. Okay, that will do. Good. Deselect. Nice. We're building up the environment. Now, these circles on the floor, I've been thinking about them. I'm going to make these ringed lights. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to draw a marquee around the lights on the floor. I'm going to go to the inking layer. I'm going to cut them away and paste them back. Now with Clip Studio Paint, if you press Command and the thumbnail in the layer palette over here, can you see now that I've selected the hoops? I'm going to I'm going to switch off this layer and I'm going to fill that hoop with red. Good. So now we're going to have some red lights on the floor. So I'm going to select them. And of course, lights are a little bit blurred. So I'm going to go to select. Now here is where Clip Studio Paint isn't quite as strong as Photoshop. Photoshop has something that can affect a layer immediately. Here, you have to do it manually. And I'm going to guess 10 pixels. So now fill again, Option Delete gives an automatic fill. Press delete a bit. How does that look? Deselect. Nah, it's a bit too, it's not wide enough, you know what I mean? So I'm going to go to blur again. And I'm going to say 30. I'm going to hit Option Delete. Okay, that looks a bit better. That's a bit, let me zoom in a bit so you can see what I'm doing. Good. Okay, I can live with that. I'm going to select the rings again. And remember how I liked gold, a goldish tinge in my red light. So here we've got the glow. I'm going to call this layer red glow. Remember your layer etiquette. Layer your stuff nicely. I'm going to make another layer. I'm going to fill this with a gold. I'm going to blur it slightly. So I'm going to select blur border. Now this one I am going to make 5 pixels. Sorry, 10. Let's go with 10, even 10. And I'm going to fill this with gold. Good. Then I'm going to take down the opacity. Let me switch off. Sorry. That is, have I gotten too excited with my gold? I think maybe I have. Let me take it down slightly. Hang on. Hold on a second. Hold on, ladies and gentlemen. I think I might be getting a bit, I think my gold was overdone. His gold was overdone. Let me select. Let's make our gold a bit more orange. And now we do our opacity. Okay, let's see how this looks from a distance. Okay. And one more layer. I'm going to put this right on the top. And I'm going to blur this layer. See, Photoshop can do this automatically, right? And try to put an intense red right at the center. Oops. Make the new layer. No, hang on a second. I think we'll fill this with, still doing a red. We make it really glow. And our red glow. I'm going to up the saturation on that. Tonal correction. Hue saturation. Saturate that red, boy. Okay, let's have a look at our ring lights. It's that going to produce enough ambient lighting? Hang on. Let's have a look. Let's switch them off one at a time. Here's our red glow. Here's our slightly gold nucleus. I'm not sure if we need that, you know. I think I'm overdoing it there. Being a bit over ambitious. Simplicity. I'm not sure we need that, you know. I think I'm getting overexcited with my lights. God damn. The effect of those are going to come in later. Right. So we've got the basic lighting in, and like the lighting, we can put, I think, at the side here, these tracks, I'm going to make these red lights as well. So let me go back to my red glow. And I'm going to go onto my glow layer. I'm going to select, blur. I think this one needs about, let's try 25. Yeah, that I do for the sides. There, and we adjust the opacity. And then, what does I like to do? I cannot give up my gold light. I cannot give up my light bling. My God, look at the size of that brush from last time. Previously. Put a little bit of gold at the center of this light. Very subtle. There. Okay. Save. Let's just check the next. My goodness. You people have been very busy talking. What's been said? Oh my goodness. Can I read all this? All right, here we go. Quentin says, was that Kerry? Oh, no, have I read this? So I haven't. I read this. I'm having deja vu. I'm having Groundhog Day. Yay, man. Okay. What's the best Al Pacino performance? I find Al Pacino mildly annoying sometimes when he did Scent of a Woman, when he was acting as a blind man. I know a lot of people really like that, but I wasn't impressed. But he is a darn good actor. What was that one? Not Donnie Brasco, the one, Scarface. And of course, Godfather. Actually, he's a good actor. He's good in anything that he acts in, to be honest. Sounds like a reggae party. That was Quentin White. The party like a reggae party. Sounds like a girly reason. I'm not quite sure what that means, Gothic. Mirror me, mirror man. Oh, yes. Well, you see, I didn't use the mirror tool, Raul. Raul, who put that, he's the master of the mirror. He's the mirror master. What's it? You're looking at the man in the mirror. Oh, that was Dan? I'm drawing A3 paper sides of Fantastic Four. Well, don't just talk about it, Quentin. Share it, son. What's this? I'm listening to your streaming. Okay, you're listening. So you're not watching. That's good enough for me, Quentin. That'll do for me. What's this? Very educational. Well, thank you very much. Thank you very much. What's this? I stick it on my window and use my headlamp as the lighting. I must have been talking to something. I'm not sure what I'm talking about there. What was up on me? Oh, my computer's doing something dodgy here as well. Oh, and Dan, who's here, he's put the link there to our current Kickstarter. I'll be running a trailer on that later on. It's called Thunders on Comics Returns. There's 5 great titles for you to choose from. And I think we've reached our first stretch goal already. We're going for the second one. If you buy all 5 titles, you will get a how-to tutorial on how to draw characters from the Thunder Zone, produced by me. Right. Pop says you can learn from Jerry. Oh, thanks, Pops. I hope you can. It's Rosinha in the Super Mario Galaxy movie. Bloomy. Bloomy, you were on earlier in Late Night Art Attack. Yes, for those of you watching, if you didn't know, I did another show very early in the morning with my partner in crime, Raul, called Late Night Art Attack. That was on at 1 a.m. in the morning, Eastern Time. So I'm back now doing this. And you know what? I'm going to stop talking. I'm going to give you a recap of what happened on Late Night Art Attack earlier today. So here we are. Here's what happened on Late Night Art Attack earlier today. And I'll meet you right back here to complete this background. Here's Late Night Art Attack. Me and Raul did this at 1 a.m. in the morning. Brutal.
Previously on Late Night Art Attack.
How about that? Do you think it deserves a round of applause? Or if you insist. But please, really, it was nothing. It was great fun. And you'll see Raul drew the wasp. And I drew my character, Wang Wang, who is based on a bee. Bzzz. It's a nursery rhyme out here in Singapore. Wang Wang Wang, Wang Wang Wang. Anyway, he's a bee boy. And Raul drew the wasp from the Marvel Universe. And that's what's amazing. It was like an attack of the stinging insects. And we didn't plan that. It just happened. And I drew Wang Wang in support of the current Kickstarter. Because he appears in the comic Supercross, which is my title, which is one of the 5 titles you can get. So that was great fun earlier. Right, now I'm looking at my TV monitor. I'm looking at my lights. On the monitor, not on my Cintiq. And they look very garish. On my monitor, they look nice and crimson. But on my TV monitor, they're very blood red. I'm not impressed with that. God damn. I like the way they look on my Cintiq, but not so much on my screen. Never mind. Never mind. So, what else can we do here on this background? Let me check the time. It's 7:54. Oh, I've still got 35 minutes. Good. Now, I was thinking of putting in some accents on the surrounding decor. Now, what does he mean by putting in some accents? Now, here, let me zoom in and show you what I'm talking about. I'm going to make another layer and call it accents. So you see this line here. See all these lines on the wall? What I'm going to do is I'm going to go to my inks layer there. I'm going to copy and paste these lines. Just the lines, not the key lines of the wall. There, I've drawn the marquee. I'm going to copy, paste. So now I've got a set of them that is separate. So I'm going to select those lines. Can you see those lines have been selected? See, it doesn't show up sometimes on monitors, the marquee. I'm going to make a layer and I'm going to fill it with white. So these are going to be white lines. White lines. Remember that track? White lines. It's about drugs. But this is a family show. We're not talking about drugs here. So these white lines, I'm now going to put behind the inking and displace them slightly. Okay, can you see? Can you see it looks like an accent now? It's like the wall has a thickness. Okay, if you can't see it, I'll make them bigger. Just for you. I'm going to expand. There, see that? I'm going to expand stroke. I'm going to expand it by, let's go 3 pixels. God damn, that's too big. Let's say 1 pixel. All right, I'm going to fill this with white. No, if it's displaced a bit too much, I'm going to move it in. But you can see that effect, right? Can you see that? Yeah, you can see that. You know what? I didn't need to expand that. I did not need to expand that. I just needed to move it more so you could see what I was doing. So let me displace it a bit more. You can definitely see that at home, right? For those of you on the back. And then because I displaced it, it's not joining, it's not going off the image here. There, so you can see the effect it gives the wall, right? It just makes those panels look a little bit more embossed. And look at me again, ladies and gentlemen. Look at that. Look at that. I didn't join this line up here. On the original inking. On the original. This is terrible. And I've just been noticing, right? I've been getting into my background so much. I've not been practicing palette etiquette. So let me just duplicate these white lines for us, right? We know that I use the mirror tool. I used the, sorry, not the Raoul tool. What? I just said Raoul. It's the Edwin tool. Edwin Badillo. He's the king of the mirror. He's the mirror master. I think I said it was Raoul earlier. No. It's the other regular here at Madness Entertainment Group, Edwin Badillo, also known as Artex. He's the man that inspired me to get more to grips with the mirror tool. Hang on. Here's my accent. I said, wait, did I put my accent on the over or the underside? Of course, it's on the underside. Silly man. Right there. And you can see my drawing was not exactly symmetrical because, not exactly centered, because we got more line missing. That'll do. We got more line missing at the edge here. So what you do is I'm going to get an inking pen. There, my favorite mapping pen. I'm going to put white inside. My pixels here, 6 seems to be fine. And I'm going to hold shift and extend those lines. Extending the lines of gratitude. There, last one down here. Is that last one? Indeed, it doth be. Okay, so we've embossed the walls. I think that's enough for the background for now. So let's tidy up our layers. So what we got going on? What's going on, man? Right, see that? It says red lights. That layer should be red. Accents. I've got to be honest, ladies and gentlemen. I was going to say, I can't remember what accents I did there. It's a false layer. Remove. There's nothing on that layer. Wall shade. Now all these things attributing to the wall should be the same color as the wall layers. So you see in Clip Studio Paint, you can color your layers with any color you want if it decides to work. There. Photoshop gives you designated colors. Now I'm not using the latest Photoshop currently. Maybe a more recent version has, you can choose your color layers, but last I used it, you couldn't. Now shadows and ambient shade. I'm going to make these all properties of gray. Then we've got white lines. What color do you think they should be? White, which technically speaking is not a color, but I digress. I've got some layers here that are not being used. I shall remove those. And what's layer 2? My red. My floor. Unused. Didn't like that. When I got too exuberant with my gold. So we've got red glow and we've got glow. I'm going to make those layers red. That's a lot more civil. Now, our environment has gone into place. Wait a second. Why does this look so subtle suddenly? Hang on. I'm just looking my embossing on this wall here. Oh, I didn't move it as much as I did the other wall. Yeah, it's more pronounced on this one. Hang on. Let me just add in my little bit of white line. There. Good. Now, does this affect our man? Let's switch him back on to see what's going on. Right. So now suddenly, and where's his shadow gone? He used to have a shadow. There you are. So, with this red lighting going on around him, I'm going to go above him. In fact, he's got a glow layer already. So I'm going to put, I won't use that. I'm going to make a layer called accents. Now I'm torn if I should do this separate to his actual colors. Yeah, I'm going to do a separate layer of accents. So I've got soft paintbrush, spray can. And I'm going to get myself a nice bright red. So here are some red lights on the floor. I'm going to come in here. Whoops. I'm going to take my density up to 100. You come in here, put in an accent here. I'm going to try some filters after this, yeah? Now I'm going to go to this layer. I'm going to try it with hard light. No, hard, is it soft light? Which would look better? How about glow? Let's try glow. Okay, I think the glow is looking quite interesting. I'm going to take down my density to 50. So in the middle of that black, I'm going to put in a little bit of ambient light. Not ambient, sorry, an accent of red. Just to pull out that lighting a bit. His calf, I'm going to put a bit of an accent on there. Let this pick up a little bit of that lighting. There, on the underside here. there as well. And can you see that? But can you see that? Good. And the outer, bit more subtle here. It's not so bright. And here, we'll pick up a little bit. My computer's stalling. Don't let me down. Don't let me down now, boy. Good. And we've got those lights behind him here. So it's going to affect his body here. Where the light is behind him. I'm being very, very lax with my lighting here, you know. I normally take much longer to do this sort of stuff. But this is good fun. On the underside of that arm, it's going to pick up. I'm going to put a little bit in that darkness there as well. And under the armpits. Down this side. And heads. You know, a face is the focal part of the body. So I'm going to pick up a little bit of red in his head and his cheeks. It's kind of a red environment. Okay, his gun. We'll pick up a little bit of red glow. And the underside. Those abs, man. Look at those abs. Last week, we had Dan Sen from Thunder Zone Comics here. He's an ex-bodybuilder. And he was saying that, you know, reading comics, he saw Superman and these guys with their abs. And that's what inspired him to get into keeping really fit and getting cut. And I never went to the heights of Dan. I certainly was never a bodybuilder, etc. But I did do martial arts. Yeah, man. Bruce Lee affected me greatly. Bruce Lee, Carter Wong, Lo Lee, Jim Kelly, all those good people. And that inspired me to do a bit of martial arts. And I can tell you what, the physical training, whether or not you want to build muscle, you're going to build it. Good. I think we did this, Spy Master. Now, here's a funny thing, right? Sometimes you look at an image and you can get a feeling to do something. Now, I'm going to try something here. I'm not sure if it's going to work. Hold on. I've got a speck on my drawing. Now, is it on my inking layer? One moment. One moment, I can see a spot. Look at this. Let me zoom in. Look at that. Now what the hell is this? The mystery of the pixels. Let's see if we can find it. Let's try inking for us. No. But it is here somewhere. Let me switch up all of these. No. This often happens to my students. They have something on their canvas. Oh, it's somewhere here. It's on my white layer. Ah, that's where you were hiding. Never let it say that Jerome Hinds is not a great detective. I fished him out. Okay. Good. Now that I've done this, I'm looking, and sometimes you get feelings to do certain things, and I'm going to try something here. I'm going to duplicate our man. I'm going to merge it. Okay, so here we now got another copy of him. Okay, I'm going to T, flip vertical, distort. I'm going to compress. And I'm going to put this behind our man. One moment. Hold on. I'm going to create a reflection. And of course, when I did that, Superman, I duplicated the shadow. That will not be needed. So here's our duplicate. I flatten it. So now we have a copy of him. I'm going to flip it vertical. And what I mainly want the foot. The feet, you could say. And I'm going to cheat, right? So I'm going to take this foot. I'm going to cut and paste. Switching off, right. I want to make this foot a reflection. So I'm going to distort. T, free transform. I'm going to take this heel right down. And stretch this part. I'm going to put it behind our main guy. Take down the distortion. The free transform again. Let's just take that heel up a bit. It doesn't have to be perfect. It doesn't have to be a perfect reflection. It just has to give the illusion of a reflection. Then we knock back the opacity in this. I dare say his layer is very, very, very clean. Shiny floors and all the rest of it. So then we get this guy. We can put him behind as well. And actually all we need is that foot, because that foot's not touching the floor. Make them both 30%. So now we get to the shadow. Do we still need a shadow? Do we still need that shadow? Let me shrink it a bit. Okay, that'll do. Do. Good. How we doing for time? How we doing for time, boy? Still got 15 minutes. Yes. And
Save!
say it again.
Save!
Save, ladies and gentlemen. If you're working digitally, save. That's the one advantage, isn't it, of working traditionally. You don't have to save. Did you know I was at a Comic-Con a couple of years back, and I was actually at my table looking for Control Z. I made a mistake and I wanted to undo what I just done. But I had to pick up the eraser and change it the good old-fashioned way. True story. Okay, so let's have a recap on every single thing we did on Spy Master. How did we start this? How did we get here? First of all, I started with my paper texture because I like to pencil on what looks like paper. You can see that texture, right? Then we got to penciling. And I started with my skeleton. As mentioned, if you back the Kickstarter from Thunderzone, there's going to be a book compiled very similar to what you're going to see on how to draw characters from the Thunderzone. Because through the years, I've done various covers and promotional art. And lots of those bits of artwork are being used as a manual on how to draw characters from Thunder Zone. So it's going to be similar to what you're going to see here. So we started with a skeleton. Then we fleshed out the skeleton. Now, of course, I mentioned in the book, you have to have a knowledge of anatomy, but even if you just do basic cylinders, your drawing will improve via this methodology. You got a skeleton. Look at the joints. You depict those with nodes, with circles. And you will get used to looking at people in skeleton form. If the skeleton looks wrong, the drawing is going to be wrong. Okay? Then we flesh that out. Yeah, baby. Then I always urge my students to find the center of something. Of course, if you're quite experienced artist, you will draw these center lines in your imagination. But if you're learning, if you're a bit lost on a drawing, go and find the center of that object. It can make a huge difference. You could be having a problem simply because something's off center. It's off rotation. By the same token, we then find the dimensions. You find where the sides, back, top, bottom of an object is. And you'll find that throughout the book that I've done with Thunder Zone, skeletons are always red, fleshing out are gray, center lines are blue, dimensions are purple. Then we come to contours. Contours is what shows us the direction of where something's traveling. And those are always in orange. It's a code that I use for my notes. So here, you can see the dimensions of the face, then we put in the detail. Now, this is what you call drawing through the object, because I drew a basic face, even though Spy Master has a complete mask. So then after that, what comes naturally is the costume. So now we can switch off our construction. Can you see my color etiquette? Look at that color coordination. God damn, I'm impressed. What a tidy young man. Well, tidy man, less of the young. So we got to the costume. Then we're dealing with a light source coming from basically above. So with the spotting, we put in the black parts that we think the light will not fall as much. Again, this comes to a certain knowledge of anatomy and muscle structure and the rest of it. But you can see there's no hatching. Then what we were discussing was conventional hatching, which I call spikes. And I can tell you, I spent over 50, well, not 50 years. I wasn't drawing my whole life, but I was into my 50s when I was still hatching. Nah, am I exaggerating? I'm not sure. I was pretty close to 50. I was still hatching in this kind of style. Okay, there's nothing wrong with it. I still like it. I still do it. But then I started looking at what I call the image style, which is gradations. You found that the hatching comes out of the black at more of an adjacent way. It's in a direction. You see, I can explain this, right? If you got, let me just give you a brief demo. If you're coming into the light, let's say you got a piece of, whoops, let's go for black. Let's say you got a piece of shadow, and you want to go into the light. Now, of course, you can go into the light like this. It's coming out of the darkness and it's going into the light. That's your hatching. Now, I used to spend years gradienting. Is that a word, gradienting? Putting a gradient of going from black, going from the shadow to the light. I used to shade in that way. But then, the trusty lads over at Image Comics, where you got your Rob Liefeld, your Jim Lees, Mark Silvestri, those guys started doing something like that, which is pretty much the same thing, but just with a different, the hatching is going, it's parallel to the blackness. So it was just a different way of going from dark to light. And they say you can't teach an old dog new tricks. Well, I'm old, but I'm not a dog. So that's the end of that. I definitely got into gradations, which is this. Okay? Hang on. Get rid of that sketching. So then, from the gradation, or what I call the image style of hatching, I then added back in my own spikes, that I call it. So we had cross hatching. So I said, okay, we go extreme with Spike Master. We do the cross hatching. So that was the end of the penciling chapter. So then we got to the inking. So we switch on this and let's see what happened here. So switch off all the coloring, switch off all these layers. How did we get to where we are? First thing is we had our sketch, correct? So now the first thing you do is you ink the key lines. What do I mean by that? The key lines are where the borders, of course your outer border, and all of the borders of the costume are, because this makes it easier to color. So I put this on one layer. Again, if you're working traditionally, you know what? Even when I was inking traditionally, did you know I still did this process? I would go for my main key lines. Then next, I would ink the most important, see here, because it's called inner contours. Then you put these in. Before I show you that again, let me just show you with the coloring. Can you see the base colors are very easy to apply when you've got the fundamental key line layer. It's easy to put in your base colors, okay? So then, at the inking stage, we did the inner contours. Then we did the spotting. Of course, the pencils were switched on all this time, right? Then we did our spiking layer. My old school, Jerry Hinds, Bronze Age, Silver Age spikes. Then we cross-hatched and we brought in our image, what I call gradation hatching. Then we switched on both layers and we had our cross-hatching. So then we got to coloring. And we put in the base colors, as I just showed. Then shading. And we used the dodge and burn technique, correct? And the blue, that was the dark and the light areas. The yellow, dodge and burn again. The greens, there were two different kinds of greens. You had the main costume greens there, the dodge and burn. Then you had the extra greens around the belt, which is a slightly darker tone. Then we had the gray, which was, I made it kind of a bluey gray. You see the knife on the chest, the logo, and the holster for the gun. And remember, I made the pattern on his chest quilted. Then we got to the purple gun in there. Then finally, we got to doing the eyes, which would be the white. Then we put the effects on top, which was the glow. Then lastly, as we just did, we put some accents in, right? Those red accents, which was pertaining to the background. So now we switch on the background. And let's go through how we built up the background. Switch off everything. So first of all, we started with our paper texture, as we like it. And I put the horizon line down here. It was low, the camera was low. Low, baby. I put the vanishing point in the center, because we were doing some Stanley Kubrick. No, there's my mistake, right? Can you see my vanishing point is not dead center? Can you see that? But can you see that? Okay, let me show you how we can quickly measure this. I'm going to put in this. Now, let's put this exactly the same distance the other side. Can you see that is slightly off? That's why we ended up with more background on the left. But I digress. My vanishing point was placed there. And I roughly sketched in a background. This was my basic idea. Well, it's a bit light, isn't it? Let me make that darker, boy. Hang on. Let me make that darker. Yeah, you can see that more clearly now, right? And now I was a naughty boy here, right? I knew roughly where my vanishing point was, and I just put in a rough idea for a background. Now, I have to confess, I didn't really construct this background with the vanishing point very slowly. I did it very quickly, which is very naughty, right? So then we got to inking the background, which was, where's my inking layer? Where's my inking layer gone? Ah, damn. Oh, there it is. I'm becoming blind in my old age. Right. So we switch off to sketching now. And there was my inking. Now I had circles on the floor, but remember, I just cut those away because I changed that inking to red. So we put those. Remember, I was bluffing my vanishing point, and it was kind of accurate. Well, accurate enough, you could say. So then from there, we put in the base colors. Then the first piece of coloring we did was the ambient lighting of the back wall and back corridor. Then we put some shading on the floor, put some shading on the walls. During this, I was talking also about shadows. And it, this is a bit of like design, Some of this is not, how can I say? It's not really, I mean, there could be a light coming from behind the wall, right? There could be a light coming from the right. There doesn't have to be one, but that shadow just gives it a different presence. We had the blacks on the backgrounds, a shadow, and our chevron. Of course, we had our no-go yellow. Careful of the lift door. We put in accents on the wall. Can you see the wall's accents? I'm going to put those all into one. I put them all into one layer now. They were separate before. Let me change back the color of that layer. One thing with Clip Studio Paint, when you change layers, you lose the color when you merge layers. You have to put the color of the layer back. So from there, we then got into some interesting stuff. The ambient shading. Up here, right across the whole thing. But remember, we put some lights in on the back. We had to glow those lights. After we did all of that, that then made us put some red accents into Spray Master. And that's that. That's done. And what do I normally do at the end? Of course, what do? You know what you do. Everybody knows what you do. You
save.
Damn right. Now hold on. We've got some comments coming here. Wow, some nice information. What we got going on here? Quentin saying thank you. You're welcome. I'm frozen, but heading to the gym. Oh, okay. Dan, have a good time. Quentin says, oh, nice detail. Thank you, Quentin. Who's this? Edwin was the first one to draw CRoM. Oh, okay. Edwin Bardello. Pops informs us. Okay, if you're new here, Pops is the mastermind behind the whole Madness Entertainment Group. So often when you see a comment comes up, it's coming from Pops, the man in charge. So Edwin was the first one to draw CRoM. That's the little, you're going to see some animation at the end of the end credits that I did with CRoM. We used some of Edwin's original drawings to do a bit of animation for the sign-off information with Madness Entertainment Group. He said, extend the line. Extend the line, Peterson and Butthead's laughter. No, this is a family show, boy. We don't want any of that sort of shenanigans here. Please share the stream. Jerry deserves a larger audience. Oh, thank you very much. Thank you very much, sir. Thank you very much. I see the light hitting his leg. Yes, indeed. We could have got a lot more extreme with this stuff. Quentin, trust me. What's that? That pixel bust in cap. That pixel bust in cap, huh? Oh, that when I trace down that rogue pixel. Indeed. Oh, yes, mad lads. All you boys, all the mad lads. The usual guys who are here with me is, of course, Raul. He's the main fixture of Late Night Art Attack. Then we're often joined by Edwin Bardello and Christian Zappo of the Addicts independent title. Quentin like save. Yeah, man, save. God damn. What's it? The purple gun came from alternate outlaw known as the Prince. You know what? I've got goosebumps. You figured me out. That was my Prince gun, man, but I never said that. Damn right. It's a shame that Minneapolis is having such problems at the moment, but I digress. And is that time? Yes, it is. So I'm just going to run a few trailers, and I'll see you back here next week. Next week, we are actually, what we're going to start on next week is a fight scene. So you got two characters in close proximity, and one will be punching the other. That's what we're going to start on next week, how to draw a fight scene. Of course, there's an infinite number of ways of doing that, but we're going to look at two characters up close with one throwing a punch, maybe or maybe not connecting. Right, so I'm gonna run a few trailers here, and then I'll see you back here next week. And remember to always save. If you're working digitally, that is. I'll see you back here next week. Peace. Few trailers for us.
Thunderzone Comics returns. 5 all-new comics: Sumo Boy, Weirdo, Marshall Strong, Big House Blues, and Supercross, plus a free how to draw characters from the Thunderzone. When you back all 5 new releases, the Kickstarter campaign is live now. Thunderzone Comics!
Ozzy, what are you doing? Come and have a look at this lovely book that was sent over.
You're wrapping in the perpendicular.
Oh, go on and spit the bat out your mouth. No one can understand you like that.
Very now. 6 out of 5 dentists and all.
Oh, well, that's not much better. Ozzy, why don't you sing to me? I can always understand you when you sing to me.
Fucking my brains. What is this my publisher sent me? Inked in black with art so sweet.
So what do you think? Do you like it?
Oh, Lord, yeah.
ACK, panels out and comic book knowledge. 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 D-A-C-K. Panels out and comic book knowledge.
If you like stories about truth, honor, and justice, then you should check out MAGA Man. It is Donald Trump as many now see him, the defender of justice and a warrior for peace through strength. MAGA Man is an all-American style 22-page comic book, so get over to fundmycomic.com and support the culture of truth, honor, and justice. With MAGA Man, the most needed hero of all. MAGA Man.
If you missed the live viewing of any Meg production, you can find all our content on Roku or as a member of this channel. Madness Entertainment Group.